the debate. Please welcome Samuel Lowe.
We've come a long way since the age of non-contractual, exploitative, master-servant relationships. And we mustn't allow zero-hour contracts to turn back the clock. That's why we believe contracts were meant to combat asymmetries, not ossify them. Honest work deserves honest pay. But zero-hour contracts provide us neither, so we'll ban them. These are contracts that let employers decide exactly how much work their workers get. So workers have no guaranteed income. They can be technically employed, but still receive absolutely nothing. 90% of McDonald's workers are 0 hours, yet 40% of them are never ever called to work. What's our policy? 1. We'll ban 0-hour contracts. 2. Corporations, but not workers, will be punished if these contracts are still offered, with a sliding scale of penalties such as fines or revoking their licenses. 3. Instead, we support full-time contracts, part-time contracts, or even short-term contracts that offer fixed hours and a reliable pay. 4. With a range of measures, we can support companies transitioning from 0-hour contracts to fixed-hour contracts, in the same way we already provide subsidies to small and medium companies. Finally, in the status quo, unemployed individuals will be given unemployment benefits until they find a new job. We have 3 arguments. 1. We protect workers from coercion. 2. We empower workers, and my second speaker will finally discuss engendering wider societal benefits. Let's talk about our first argument, that we protect workers from coercive measures. This argument will tell you that workers cannot meaningfully consent to 0-hour contracts. We suggest that states can intervene in some decisions to protect the rights of workers. All contracts demand that workers sign away some of their rights and should only be recognized if uncoerced. This is why we ban exploitative sweatshop labor, which is almost always the product of economic duress. Because 0-hour contracts are especially asymmetric, we think they must be held to a higher standard of meaningful consent, because wages are unpredictable and left to discretion wholly to companies. Why is this high bar of meaningful consent systemically not met? First of all, they sign under severe social economic duress. With rising unemployment around the world, workers who fear receiving no wage are forced to accept 0-hour contracts. 50% of England's youth are unemployed, struggling with student debt, and elderly parents to care for. Can they realistically reject a 0-hour contract when facing unemployment? Before we go any further, yes sir.
How are they being exploited if they have the right to say no to that contract, to say no to that job?
Realistically, we don't think workers can say no. When you're forced to put food on the table, when you're struggling with tuition debt that eventually takes you an entire decade to pay out, you can't realistically say no when a company calls you to work. So no, they have no consent in this matter. No thank you. Back to our argument. In fact, workers often prefer fixed-hour contracts. They only settle for 0-hour contracts because of opposition's world. There is no other option for them but to settle for these contracts. Many workers fighting for a few jobs are trapped in a race to the bottom, and they reduce their contractual demands to improve job prospects. Second reason, 0-hour contracts, no thank you sir, are predominantly used in monopolistic industries, denying workers a range of options. This is because of low competitive pressures. As such, employers don't have to offer fair terms and fair arrangements to compete for workers. These are industries like tourism, no thank you, where only a few dominant players like Intercontinental and Hilton Global collude over price and employment practices. Because of this, workers don't really have many options when it comes to choosing which company they want to work for. They all collude to offer 0-hour contracts. So it's information. Social economic duress, no thank you sir, forces people who are the most vulnerable to find a job. And the monopolistic nature of industries means that the only job they can get on their side are 0-hour contracts. As such, 0-hour contracts do not meet the high threshold of meaningful consent. There might be 2 ways workers could possibly protect their rights on opposition side, but 0-hour contracts make both impossible. First of all, opposition might claim that workers can unionize to collectively fight for better working conditions, but workers with inconsistent schedules cannot follow the networks they so desperately need. Secondly, Morocco might say we can retreat to regulations like the minimum wage, but employers simply circumvent them by giving workers less pay and hence less work. Consequently, 0-hour contracts intrinsically preclude meaningful consent. We must ban them. Our second argument is that we empower workers as well. The next to this argument is that banning 0-hour contracts give workers certainty in their lives and a reliable income. Yes, sir.
How does this exactly harm the businesses that are hiring these workers, and why is compensation bad for the workers, and why is more options actually harmful for the work?
Thank you, sir. There were several claims in the found information. First of all, we don't think there are many options at all when every single company in the market is offering 0-hour contracts. Secondly, if small companies are struggling, we can offer them help. In the same way, companies already provide subsidies to help companies meet the minimum wage. So yes, the economy will not suffer in the short run. All they do is halve the choices of workers who are so desperate and so vulnerable. No thank you. Back to our second argument. The core of this argument are that 0-hour contracts provide no stability because work and pay are decided by the whims and fancies of employers like the UK National Health Service. Why is this bad? There are 3 reasons why this is so harmful. First of all, 0-hour workers have no control over their lives because their contracts are highly unpredictable. The average 0-hour worker in Canada can work from anywhere between 0 to 25 hours a week. It's incredibly distressing to never know when work might come. To have your entire life held hostage by the beck and call of employers, and workers can't even risk saying no. And this answers their previous point of information. Because if they say no a single time, they are afraid of employers never ever calling them back again. That means no food on the table, no income to feed their family. In 2014, close to 1,000 0-hour workers received less than 1 day's notice from companies like JD Wetherspoon and Sports Direct. 24-hour McDonald's have called workers at 2 a.m. expecting them to work at an understaffed counter at a 4 a.m. shift on the very same day. With no control, a worker cannot seek retraining, schedule night classes, explore other options, find better jobs, or go job hunting. No thank you, sir. Second reason, 0-hour workers have no stable income. If a 0-hour worker is lucky, the average worker at Tesco works 3 hours a week and only earns £18 within that same week. No thank you, sir. With 89% of 0-hour workers struggling to make ends meet, it's impossible to make important, life-changing decisions. They can't rent the house because landlords don't think they should pay up at the end of every month. They can't qualify for health insurance because they have terrible credit, having no stable income. They can't care for their own families because they don't ever know when they'll be home to bring their aging parents to the hospital. Finally, 0-hour contracts inherently preclude employment practices because workers can receive absolutely nothing but still be technically employed. Employers don't have to formally fire a worker with severance pays or simply stop calling them back for work. This means no payments to help workers put food on the table before finding a new job. Such behavior cannot be regulated away because you can't possibly ascertain if companies have deliberately stopped calling you. Because there are no guarantees for a minimum wage or a minimum hour on their side, there is really no difference between being fired and never being called back again by a company. This makes abuse more likely because companies can do precisely that if workers report abuse. Hence, we don't think people should be allowed to consent to the egregious harms of 0-hour contracts, even if they rationally do so, which we suggest they cannot. On our side, firms are more likely to rehire workers on full contracts than they off because demand remains fixed. In 2012, companies make enough profits to increase wages, but they have no incentive to increase wages on their side. Consequently, because we protect workers and we protect the economy, we are proud to stand on such proposition.
Speaker spoke for 8 minutes and 12 seconds.
I thank the first proposition speaker for his speech. And now, to open the case for opposition, I call upon Mohammad Razuba.
I can literally stand up here and only argue that 0-hour contracts are simply contracts that require mutual agreements, and therefore Team Morocco wins the debate because the two parties have agreed and signed the contracts with legal coverage. And therefore, if any person believes that a zero-hour contract is fitting to their lifestyle, then we at Team Morocco strongly believe that he or she should have the possibility to actually accept a work that has a zero-hour contract. So we stand for possibilities and opportunities. And not only that, Team Morocco strongly believes that zero-hour contracts are fundamental to our today's society and economy, and therefore they're crucially needed. Now, it is totally up to the workers whether or not they want to choose the contracts or not. And we acknowledge the fact that many zero-hour contracts actually vary. And therefore, we believe that we should
Why do you think the answer?
we believe that we should leave it up to the employees and employers themselves to determine whether this zero-hour contract is fitting or not. And we believe that there is no person in this world that should dictate whether or not the person chooses to work long shifts every day or rather work in zero-hour contracts where they do not have to work long shifts. Now, in order for a team to win this debate, we have to prove whether or not this house should ban the zero-hour contracts. And whether or not you should ban them is totally up to you, dear educators. And I would like you to actually outweigh the advantages of zero-hour contracts for the disadvantages that zero-hour contracts actually provide. Now, my speech, I would like to divide my speech in 3 segments. The first part, where I would like to respond to the proposition team, and then the second part, where I would like to propose a new argument, and third, again, present the
Information.
Now, the 3 main arguments the opposition team will be presenting in today's debate is first, job opportunities are offered from zero-hour contracts, and without these zero-hour contracts, many job opportunities, and not jobs themselves, but job opportunities will be deleted and will hurt the job market. Second of all, the second argument that the opposition team will be arguing is that the economy is actually in need of these zero-hour contracts, and therefore we have to have them in order to keep an economy that is prospering. And third and last, my partner and second speaker will actually present an argument proving why flexibility is very important in today's world and why zero-hour contracts are the only ones that actually allow us to have flexible hours. And also, he would like to surprise you with an argument that will tell you why, due to zero-hour contracts, today's debate has been possible. And without these zero-hour contracts, this debate would not have been possible. Premise 1, ladies and gentlemen. According to the economists, hundreds of thousands of job opportunities.
Do you believe government should mandate minimum safety standards in contractual labor or implement minimum wage if workers themselves don't want them?
Thank you for your points of information. First of all, our governments already do have these laws put in place that are ensuring workers' safety, even in the zero-hour contracts. The difference in zero-hour contracts isn't having an insecure contract with the workers. However, zero-hour contracts is only different in one aspect. It's only compared from 0 hours to 100 hours, depending on what the employer and employee have agreed upon. No, thank you. So premise 1, ladies and gentlemen, as the economists have said, hundreds of thousands of jobs are actually in done by zero-hour contracts. And actually millions of people are working from these zero-hour contracts. And he has also said that 64% of them were interviewed, and it has been reported that 64% of them are actually happy with their status and their work. Meaning that the majority of people with zero-hour contracts are actually happy. So this is one reason why you should vote for Team Morocco, because the people that actually sign these contracts are mostly happy with it. Now, moving on to the other points in this argument. Yes?
If a worker wants to opt to unsafe labor, why wouldn't you then?
I don't see how this is relevant to our case because we're not arguing whether it's a safe labor or not. We're arguing whether or not the zero-hour contracts should be banned or whether they should be preserved. Now, let me continue with my argument. There are many jobs that require zero-hour contracts. And if I would start listing these jobs, I would end this debate until tomorrow. However, I'd like to just point out the very important ones, which are on-call emergency doctors, which our societies really need, and these are on zero-hour contracts with different clinics. Also, doping control officers that make sure that all the athletes are not doping and they're not cheating. Other than that, I'd like to mention the fact that the tried and tested Hollywood model is integrated to other industries. Therefore, Hollywood itself, their workers are in zero-hour contracts. While zero-hour contracts are particularly common in fast food and retail, which most of them are actually university students that need that money to pay for their tuition. However, other sectors' workflow is unpredictable, such as the creative industries with advertisements, filmmaking, and design, have long employed for projects contracts, freelance talent to deal with the ups and downs and the specific skill requirements of individual projects. Think of Hollywood. Think of a Hollywood film. I'm sure we all enjoy Hollywood films. We all have a favorite movie, and we all have actually watched the movie. And if you're happy that you have watched the movie, then you should vote for Team Morocco. And the reason why these Hollywood movies are only there thanks to the zero-hour contracts is because now even in professional employees who would once have been formally contracted are having to embrace this new flexibility. Many actually find they're more preferring to be hired when needed in the means that they can offer their services to a variety of employers rather than just one employer. When an actor is done with a movie, he must find a new director to hire. When the director is done with a movie, he must find a new association to hire. Now moving on to premise number 2, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you. And premise 2 is showing you how the economy is actually really in need of these zero-hour contracts. A prolonged economic downturn appears to be the main driver of the increase of zero-hour contracts. With demand and uncertain and the pace of recovery unclear, it appears that many private sector employers have become more reliant on zero-hour contracts due to the global crisis. Manage their businesses through a difficult economic period. Many of these businesses cannot afford to hire workers that will work in long shifts. And so in order for their businesses to actually succeed, they must hire them with zero-hour contracts. Otherwise, their businesses will absolutely fail, and in return, that will hurt our economy. As a result, there's strong evidence that suggests that the use of such agreements is an important factor to ensuring that our economy is prospering. 50% of all domiciliary care workers are now employed on zero-hour contracts. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to conclude my speech by saying that you must vote for Team Morocco, because not only are these zero-hour contracts just an agreement between people and they could disagree if they're violating them, but because it helps our economy. Thank you very much.
Speakers spoke for 8 minutes and 10 seconds.
his speech. And now to continue the case for the proposition, I call upon Brian Yen.
Team opposition was naive. They claimed to believe in possibilities and opportunities. But what they were really fighting for was the possibility for companies to refuse to give you your benefits, to refuse to pay you severance pay simply by demoting you to a zero-hour contract. The opportunity for companies to never call you back. And you think, I'm employed. I could be called back any day. And you cannot plan the training, you cannot bring a family to hospitals, because at any back and call of the employer, you could be called in man McDonald's. Team opposition in fighting for possibilities and opportunities have legitimized exploitation and coercion. You will not stand for this. Two questions for the House today. First, can you consent to zero-hour contracts? Second, should you be allowed to consent to zero-hour contracts? One, can you consent to zero-hour contracts? Let us break the trying information, sir. No thank you. Which was that, oh, you can just disagree. You don't like terms in a contract. If that were true, they will remove any and all laws for safety standards in contract because, oh, I can just agree if someone is abusing me. But they don't. And the reason for this is we recognize that there are some contracts which are just so bad that we will ban them. So, their entire analysis for how some contracts consent contracts, sure, that's fine. But what we're trying to prove is that there are some contracts, including zero-hour contracts, which you systemically cannot consent to. So, like, why can't you systemically consent to zero-hour contracts? And here's where their failure to deal with my first speaker's argument is fatal to their team. Because we gave you three compelling reasons why you cannot consent to zero-hour contracts. First, you cannot consent whether or not you want to work because of the socio-economic circumstances, and you already put it many poor people to work in zero-hour contracts. There's often no other alternative but in zero-hour contracts. Second, you cannot consent to what kind of contract you want to sign into. And this is particularly important because we cannot really disagree at the point at which every other contract is allowed. My first speaker's analysis was very clear. Many companies who use zero-hour contracts are monopolies, like the tourism industry, which is one of its dominant players. As a monopoly or oligopoly, they are able to collude with other companies within the industry only to offer zero-hour contracts. Where this debate is topical in the UK and in Canada, both of these countries and industries solely using zero-hour contracts to man their counters. So don't let them lie to you that they have a choice. Go.
If the opposition believes that zero-hour contracts do not provide a fixed salary, then why not just go out there and get a full-time job?
Because very often they can't. Very often they lack the skills to do so. And that's the kind of language that they want to use to push people into zero-hour contracts. They will say, why not get a full-time job? Why not just go and save yourself? You know, we're not going to ban contracts that don't have safety regulations because you can just disagree and go to a full-time job. We will not stand for this sort of coercive and abusive team. They also cannot consent to how they choose their jobs. Very often there is diminished information and the point in which any job that comes by is one that they have to take up because of their circumstances. For these three compelling reasons, we have shown they cannot consent to it. Their case falls. Second, even if they could, they should not be allowed to consent to these things. But that is it. They can provide job opportunities here. So same question. Would you allow people to have exploitative practices if this provides job opportunities? Clearly, we denounce certain types of labor. We propose that job opportunities can be created at the point at which we ban zero-hour contracts. Because monopolies and oligopolies often have sufficient money in order to hire part-time contracts to replace those previously on zero-hour contracts. Yeah, brilliant example apparently about Hollywood was really just a lie. So they spent about 1 million on it, but I'm sorry, that's 1 million wasted because Hollywood doesn't use zero-hour contracts. They use spot contracts, which signs you on for a specific period of your project and then lets you.
What's the information, sir?
So this is not a zero-hour contract. Please don't research. Not that. Second, dignity is important. We talk a whole lot about families, how this is undermined to the point at which you're on a zero-hour contract on the leash of an employer. So we believe we have dignity. They claim you can be called down in the middle of the night because a person has a heart attack. That's probably terrible because that means you can be called down at any point in your life, any point in your day. We think that's bad for dignity, bad for flexibility. In fact, seriously guys, hospitals don't use zero-hour contracts. You seriously won't wait for a doctor to travel from his house to save a dying patient. They use part-time. So there are only examples where that really work for our case. My substantive argument for today, after proving that their case already falls. How we gender-wide societal benefit? First, we increase economic growth to increase individual expenditure. So if they want to talk about the economy, we do that better. Economic growth, as we put it, is necessary in our age of austerity, where countries are stagnating due to diminished consumer confidence and very often diminished spending. Banning zero-hour contracts creates the need for part-time contract or fixed-hour contracts to replace previous workers. And these part-time contracts, like you saw, provide a contractually guaranteed income stream. This means workers are more willing to spend. Why? Previously, workers are uncertain on when they receive their pay, if at all. So, if a worker does not know if he can feed his family for the next month, he'll be less likely to spend on other things other than food. Comparatively, a stable income stream allows workers to plan their finances and allocate different amounts to spending and saving every month. The UK Chartered Institute of Personal Development found that in areas where zero-hour contracts are prevalent, spending has decreased by close to 1% over the past 2 years. Why is spending important? Because increased spending means an increase in demand for products, and in poorer areas, this means increased income for local shop owners. Moreover, companies are likely to increase their branch sizes by increasing employment rates, so it also creates more jobs and also increasing the pay of current workers to retain them within these jobs. In essence, abolishing zero-hour contracts won't let you create much needed economic growth, creates jobs as well. We think we've already taken the ground that they want to fight. Second, we prevent the regression of worker rights. Zero-hour contracts based in cells on the legitimacy to give up certain liberties in search for a job, like, in this case, flexibility for employment. This is contrary to the work of labor unions, which have consistently pushed for greater protection of liberties, such as increased work regulations and benefits. This hurts the regulation. No. One, unions work on the basis of a collective voice fighting for various consensus. This voice must be coherent in order for them to have an impact on managements and politics. Zero-hour contracts make it difficult for the labor movement to continue creating inroads into rights, because the rights-based discourse and progress of labor unions are dissonant with the exchange-based discourse of zero-hour contracts. So, unions also have to take steps to correct inequities within zero-hour contracts themselves, and this often is activism that is regressive because they raise significant bargaining power fighting for things that have already been corrected in the past. Very good example, the UK's United Union lost significant weight after some of their members started joining zero-hour contracts because they had to focus their efforts on finding conditions within zero-hour contracts and forego their past pursuits such as increasing average wages and increasing employment rates. So, even if you want to increase employment rates, they harm them as well. Very finally, they hurt the dignity of workers as well. Because at the point in which you can say you can give up your liberties, you just need to disagree. This means they will allow workers, or these companies will tell workers, you can consent to exploitative conditions, you can consent to things below the minimum wage. Very often these workers have no other choice and will often continue and be beholden to these companies and stay with these jobs. We believe the dignity of workers should never be suspended. For these reasons, we cannot consent to a zero-hour contract. We should not consent to a zero-hour contract. We stand firm on proposition.
Speakers spoke for 8 minutes and 8 seconds.
case for opposition, I call upon Amun Naitalo.
The second proposition speaker came up here and fed you lies and glittering generalities to provide his side with the advantage. Well, I'm going to explain this to you. All he said was he used words such as corrosion, collusion, and we are exploiting the workers. For you guys to think that they are right, well, they are wrong. Based on their arguments and our arguments, I will explain to you exactly why we are going to win this debate. First of all, I'm going to defend the attacks made on our case by Team Singapore, and then I'm going to attack their case, and then finally give you one more constructive argument on why zero-hour contracts are so helpful to the economy and to the people who are under it. Well, for one, they said that Hollywood was a lie. Well, let me just tell you that zero-hour contractors are the ones being zero-hour contracts are the ones being used in Hollywood because they go from one job to another and they are on call. That they get paid for the number of hours they do and how much time they spend. They can either choose to take a percentage of the movie production, the revenue of the movie, or being paid by an hour. That is a zero-hour contract. Hollywood already given zero-hour contracts. Doctors, they said that doctors are not going to save lives. If they were in full-time jobs, doctors would not save lives. Because if they were in full-time jobs, they would never be called at 3 a.m. while they were asleep to come save a human being. Because they only work from 8 to 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. That means that they cannot come at 2 p.m. and should not be paid for the 2 p.m. job, the 2 a.m. job. That means that they are going to be killing people because the doctors are not on call and are not being under zero-hour contracts. So as you can see, doctors they need these zero-hour contracts because they save lives and they help economies and they help us all. And they said that people they have to say, how about the people who can't get jobs? How about the homeless people that cannot get jobs? They are homeless and they need these zero-hour contracts. Even the most minimal aid will help them and give them money. So that means that zero-hour contracts help these poor people. Now onto and I'm going to attack their case. For the first argument was that workers, they have to be sent to zero-hour contracts. Well, first of all, in this argument, they assume that zero-hour contracts are bad. They are not bad, ladies and gentlemen. 65% of UK workers on a zero-hour contract were completely satisfied with their job, compared to 58% who were on normal jobs. A normal contract job, only 58% are satisfied with their work-life balance, while 65% are satisfied with their work-life balance on the zero-hour contract.
Wait, sir.
Zero-hour, yes.
And one call doctor is paid for the periods of standby. A zero-hour worker can stand by and receive no pay at all. Why should a homeless man go without money for months on end and no food?
Well, if that is the only job he can find, then I expect he will go get that money. Because even if it is just a zero-hour contract, he can work. Furthermore, some people don't have the time to go into full-time jobs. A student, for example, who is studying full-time cannot go into a zero-hour contract job. Because he is studying all the time, so he can only do these small jobs to get the money to help pay for his tuition. So moving on, they said that they are forced to consent, but they can also get a regular full-time job. They said that they have to accept these zero-hour contracts. They don't. The majority of contracts out there in the world are not zero-hour contracts, and they assume that they are. Well, as you can see, they can just refuse the zero-hour contract because it is just a contract. So why would we ban a choice? You can choose not to do the zero-hour contract job and go and work a full-time regular job. But since we are limiting the possibilities, they should not be banned. Moving on to their second argument, which was that zero-hour contracts offers no stability. Well, that is completely wrong. Because zero-hour contracts do offer stability. As I said before, 65% of the people are satisfied with how much they make. And only 30% of zero-hour contract people who have zero-hour contract jobs in the United Kingdom want more hours. That means that only a small minority of people are not getting the hours they are expected. So as you can see, they are being called. They're saying that they can get 0 hours, but they are given many hours. As you see, more than 70% of the people in the United Kingdom who are on the 0-hour contract job like their jobs and are satisfied with the amount of money they make. So as you can see, their arguments were just assumptions that I have clearly disproved. Now moving on to the third argument. One more thing.
Wait, sir.
They said that with full-time job they can get stability. But who says that if you work 40 hours per week, you'll be stable? There are many jobs who pay the minimum wage and they can't live on that. While zero-hour contract job, you can work on a zero-hour contract job and work on another part-time job, so you can make the most money you can. So as you can see, they are very helpful to the economy, very helpful to the people. Now I'd like to add one more argument, which is flexible hours. The greatest inventions were created because somebody has free time. All these great inventions, such as Facebook or Apple, were done because people had free time. And that's exactly what zero-hour contract jobs do. They give you a lot of free time. An example of this is the students. So students, they give you many hours free that you can do to build something creative or do something to enhance your community. This is why our third argument is that zero-hour contract jobs should not be banned because they bring flexible hours and people with more free time on their hands. Furthermore, not all people have the luxury to work a full-time job. They have limited time and can only do zero-hour contract job. For example, a student does not have the time to work 40 hours per week, but he can do a zero-hour contract job, which can help him pay for his tuition. A very good example, and I think this is the best example, is this of people working on a zero-hour contract job, having the flexibility, is our dear coach, Sufyan Shubani. He is on a zero-hour contract job at this time. He works as a doping control officer, and he has a lot of time on his hands. He has always loved debates, and his dream was to come make a national debate team in Morocco, in his home country, and that is exactly what he did. That is why I am standing right in front of you. It is because of the zero-hour contract job. He could not have done a full-time job because he had to move all around the country to trade us all. So the only way he could have done this was with the flexible hours of his zero-hour contract job. So, audience, judges, fellow debaters, I'm sure you are all enjoying this debate as much as I am. And this could not have been possible if it wasn't for the flexibility and the free time given by zero-hour contract jobs. So as you can see, zero-hour contract jobs are amazing to society, and that's why we, as Team Morocco, uphold them and support them. Finally, the flexible hours can also help a company rise up. In a fast-moving economy, flexibility can give competitive advantage, ensure survival, and increase success. Companies are looking to build suppleness into their structure, so they are very equipped to manage changes that happen by matching resources to demand. Trade unions may not like them, but employees seem to love them. According to a recent survey conducted by CIPD, more than half the employees were satisfied. They like the flexibility and the free time they enjoy. And so, to conclude, as you can see, I have shown you that the lies that they have fed you are just that, lies. We have provided facts and strong evidence and proof that zero-hour contract jobs help our whole society. They help our whole world to come up. They help companies, they help everyone. So please, if you believe that zero-hour contract jobs are amazing, please vote for Team Morocco.
Speakers vote for 8 minutes and 7 seconds.
The case of Team Morocco can be reduced broadly to the assertions that if we ban these contracts, unemployment will result. The harms to workers in the economy of unemployment are necessarily worse than that of zero-hour work. So we break those assertions, their case false. Those will therefore be my two questions about the first. One, will this ban necessarily increase unemployment, or in fact, reduce it? Second, is unemployment always necessarily worse than zero-hour work, even if it exists? One, will this ban increase unemployment? The response to almost every single argument we gave you about the structural exploitative nature of this work was, alright, but the alternative is unemployment, so it's better to get a job. Here are three reasons why they will not be unemployed, and in fact, why 0 hours reduce employment prospects, unlike what they claim. One, because employers have every reason to absorb the cost of upgrading them to fixed-hour contracts. From the beginning of this debate, we told you that where this debate is topical, and the industries that use these contracts most are monopolists that have every ability to absorb the cost of this upgrade. In fact, we told you that even if we believe that this previous and dishonest example is no thank you, Hollywood pays $1 billion to Steven Spielberg. I submit that they can pay $2,000 more to a technician. McDonald's is an international global company with billions upon billions of dollars. Again, I submit that
Point of information.
no thank you. You can weigh it up. If Hollywood doesn't produce a movie because it's sacked all its technicians, it loses a few $1 billion in revenue. I think it's more likely that it will upgrade him and keep him and pay that extra $2,000. So on these bases, and even on their example, it's very clear that corporations have every incentive and ability to absorb that. But imagine that claiming of fear-mongering scared that, well, doctors will not exist otherwise, and now we are killing people. First and foremost, my dad's a doctor, guys. I can tell you all about this. Doctors are on-call work, not 0-hour contracts. This means that they can be mobilized for a fixed duration of time when they consent to be mobilized at any point in the day. The difference is they are paid whether or not they are mobilized, not only if they are mobilized. Meaning that if an entire night goes by and nothing happens and he can still remain at home, not going to the hospital, he remains paid. And that is the fundamental difference between both sides of the house. We allow people to dictate their own terms with the same flexibility without 0-hour contracts. So first and foremost, exactly for the industries that they've given us, industries have every reason to absorb the cost and continue hiring workers. The difference is now they are fixed-hour contracts, which are more predictable. Second, we will submit that in fact, their claim increases structural unemployment. Why? The buzzword was flexibility. I submit that this is a euphemism for uncertain. No thank you. Because now workers don't know whether or not they should do their night class to upgrade his skills. Honestly, guys, many people would quite like to be somewhere else with a better pay, more fixed hours. The reason why they can't is because they don't know when they might be called out for work. And this is why they can't go job hunting. This is why they can't sign up for a night class, so as to upgrade their skills as to be more gainfully employed in the future. So if anything, 0-hour contracts entrench unemployment because people can't find another job that they would actually quite like. Honestly, guys, the higher on the 65% was spurious. Obviously, the government was trying to defend 0-hour contracts, where we reported that. But in any case, I suppose we would quite like a 0-hour contract because I have no better option. What we're asking is that we're going to create better options for them. This is not about whether or not the 65% quite like this work or not. The question is, can we make their lives better? We will show you that we can. So this is our second reason to do it. Third, and finally, no thank you. My second skill told you that this triggers the multiplier. We told you that workers are not just workers, they're also consumers. And in an age of austerity, where the most of unemployment is demand efficient, allowing them to have more wages so as they can spend more, in fact stimulates employment. There's another line of analysis that got absolutely no response to. So for these three systemic reasons, unemployment is in fact worse on their side of the house. So their own region in that case did not stand. Before I move on, yes.
So, are you saying that we should help the lives of people who are satisfied? So you believe that if a person is satisfied, we should help them. Don't you think that there are other issues
No,
to be addressed?
we are saying that we don't think they're satisfied. You're lying on that statistic. That's our response to you. So, we've suggested that the more relevant comparative is not that they will be unemployed on our side of the house. This is a comparison between fixed-hour contracts on our side of the house and 0-hour contracts on theirs. Why is this a good thing? For the systemic reasons we gave you right from our first speaker. That this means predictable schedules. This means income streams that they can prove to their rent owners and their landlords that they deserve a house because their wages not fluctuate, meaning that they will be vested every month. These are tremendous benefits that we do not want to deny for. Honestly, I find it spurious that people who get evicted out of their houses, who can't prove to landlords that they can afford the rent, are satisfied with this job. So this is just entirely a lie. So first and foremost, unemployment is worse on their side, not ours. Second, even if unemployment results, is it always worse than 0-hour work? And the first thing we will note here is they agree with us. We asked them, use them for mandatory minimum safety standards, and they said, yes we do. 0-hour work isn't really that difficult to stand for all the same things too. Hold on. Suppose the man in poverty wants to work without a harness.
in mining because he thinks this will increase his chances of employment. Now the employer sees him and thinks that, well, it's cheap, I will buy a harness. There's that will ban him from doing so. Why? Because there are some things that are worse than unemployment. That thing is exploitation. So when they tell us that people like it, they don't. They're coerced into this answer. We refuse to believe that. So when they tell us that, well, it's also good in the second biggest constructive argument, because it means that people who don't have the luxury of a full-time job have flexibility. My question is, why is this a dichotomy between full-time jobs and zero-hour work? There's this part-time jobs, short-term contracts. The difference is people determine what their flexibility is. These are not conflicted by an employer who has no interest in their ability to be creative or their endeavors. Our response is the exact same minimum work hours to balance out of job priorities can be struck outside the house. The only difference is people determine how this balance is struck in the first place. So none of the arguments, I'm going to pretend on our worst case scenario that unemployment results from outside the house. And I'll give you a number of reasons why, even in that case, unemployment is still preferable to zero-hour exploitation. The first thing I'll point out is, this is a false dichotomy. Most times, people on zero-hour work are in fact unemployed, just appear to have books. Why? Because my first speaker told you that many people, in McDonald's especially, just tend to have the books, but they are never called down. So they receive no wage either, but they just think they're going to be. Why is this the case? Because they tell us that employers in the second skills constructive argument like to be supple. You know what suppleness means? It means overhiring workers and underusing them because there's absolutely no cost. They can just decide that on the off chance they decide to need it in a peak period, then I'll call it out. But for the rest of the year, the other 11 months, I'll never ever use it. You know what the difference is? Given that both are unemployed to an extent, the difference is this worker holds out the hope that he's eventually called down to work. So he doesn't go for retraining classes. He doesn't have to qualify for unemployment benefits because technically speaking he's employed. So in both these cases, if neither person receives a wage on either side of the house, the difference is you can go for retraining. You can identify him with government subsidies and help him through. That's our response. So first and foremost, this is a false dichotomy. Second, because zero-hour labor is structurally exploitative. Why? Because every time a worker decides whether to report an employer for his abuse, he's doing a dilemma because he risks being sacked in revenge. This is ordinarily fine because when you sack someone as an employer, you pay the severance fee. But severance fees are myth in zero-hour work because no employer is going to be so stupid as to say, I sacked him. He will just say, I didn't need him this month, I'll pay him another time. And that's why you continue keeping him there, technically employed, and never ever pay that severance wage. So people in poverty days want to sympathize with them, have no way of wrapping up their employers, even if they delay it, even if they deny them the safety standards that both sides agree are important, because they have no better alternative in the absence of these safety standards. Finally, we told you, even short-term unemployment might mean long-term employment because it means certainty or schedule. It means being able to go for night classes, as we told you about. So we would trade a short period of unemployment if this means gainful employment for the rest of your life. And we would definitely accept that cost. If a few months of unemployment, given that we can still help people with our welfare subsidies, the price we have to pay for the rest of his life being employed, that's definitely something we are fine with. So for these few reasons, we will submit that unemployment is not necessarily worse than exploitation as well. It's exactly what zero-hour work is. For both these reasons, because ultimately improves employment, and because unemployment isn't necessarily worse than exploitation, I'm so proud to stand in my position.
Speakers spoke for 8 minutes and 10 seconds.
speaker for his speech. And now to continue the case for the opposition, I call upon Zaid Samami.
Ladies and gentlemen, I stand here today telling you that Team Singapore heavily misled and manipulated this debate. How? Well, first of all, they claim that they can make these people's lives better by taking away zero-hour contracts, but they never said how. Second of all, they also said that there is no guarantee of income. Yet we clearly said that there are possible opportunities and that they can go for a full-time job. This is basic math, ladies and gentlemen. You are on a zero-hour contract, but can't make enough money. You get yourself a full-time job and get yourself a salary. If you want more money, you get a zero-hour contract. This is what we stand here today, ladies and gentlemen, to tell you that zero-hour contracts do not limit you, ladies and gentlemen. They give you opportunities. They give you an opportunity where, for example, I make $2,000 a month. I go for a zero-hour contract. That month I can make $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. So there's an opportunity right there, and this supports our first premises. Ladies and gentlemen, they heavily use the United Kingdom as an example. Well, I'd like to tell you, thank you. I'd like to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that according to the National Office of Statistics in the United Kingdom, there's a 65% satisfaction rate. That is a clear majority. There's also, well, thank you. They also said that they have to accept these zero-hour contracts. Well, no, they don't. Because this is a contract, and a contract means a mutual agreement. And whatever they call it, they lost half the time, they can say that, no, sorry, I can't come in today, I don't have the time. Another thing they heavily focused on is that there is no control. Well, of course there is control. There is total control. As both parties can call upon the job, and both parties can deny the job. Yes.
Do you seriously believe that all zero-hour workers will not have preferred higher wages, schedules determined on their own terms, and a smaller chance of exploitation?
Thank you. Well, yes. If they do want more salaries, higher salary, and more money, we're saying they can get out that zero-hour contracts and go for a full-time job that pays higher, or they can do both. So this is what Team Morocco stands here today and strongly agrees with. We'd also like to say that they also heavily use the ideas of doctors. Well, I have some, ladies and gentlemen, that in developed countries, doctors are on zero-hour contracts and work in agrees for hospitals and get paid for the hours they work in and the surgeries they perform. Now I would like to go on and summarize our arguments. We built this debate and these arguments on three premises. First, job opportunity. Second, economy. Third, flexibility. This zero-hour contracts creates job opportunities by having a job on a basis in which the employer decides to employ you. A job opportunity to employ this complete as zero-hour contract. We're getting rid of nearly 1 million jobs, and nearly 1 million people in this world are on zero-hour contracts. No, thank you. Our second premise, which was the economy. Well, this helps the economy because businesses are now dependent on zero-hour contracts because they can't afford to pay full-time employees. And employees get more money from different employers. They can have 2 to 3, or even 4, as many zero-hour contracts as they want. Once again, not limiting their capabilities. Our third premise is flexibility. Well, zero-hour contracts are not just useful for workers that's want a lot of money. No, thank you. They're used for students who sometimes have tests, sometimes have exams, and cannot stay on a full-time job. But they get zero-hour contracts to help them with accommodations, to help them with tuition, and with life expenses. What about parents, full-time moms, where they can get a full-time job? What if their son gets sick? What if their daughter gets sick? So what do? They get a zero-hour contract. Nurses in hospitals are multiple zero-hour contracts. If a hospital suddenly becomes overcrowded, a lot of people, they call nurses on zero-hour contracts, which don't say they help. Yes.
You claim that workers are so empowered as to be able to say no if they want. So you want emergency services doctors who have 3 to 4 hours in this might say no.
Can you rephrase your point of view?
If workers are so empowered, why would hospitals want doctors who might at short notice decline the work and leave half patients down?
Well, what if these doctors do not only have one doctor on a zero-hour contract, they may have 3 to 4, even 5 doctors. And if one says no, they will call another one and another one. And I can guarantee you that one of them will be there, and one of them will be there to help. I would like to conclude my speech by saying that we, Team Morocco, strongly believe that zero-hour contracts should not be banned because they create a lot of opportunities to the employer and to the employee. They create flexibility to both the employer and the employee, and they help our economy. Yes.
When you see doctors can be called by another one and another, don't you admit that companies will overhire workers and therefore not provide most of them any work at all?
Once again, what Team Singapore is focusing on is the fact that these people will not get jobs. Please understand that only 30% of the people on zero-hour contracts want more hours. 70%, which is a very great majority, are satisfied with the hours they have. So please, Team Singapore, do realize that 70%, a great majority, do want do like zero-hour contracts. I would like to urge you all to understand that if you enjoyed this debate, unlike this debate today, it was only possible with the fact as our coach and founder of the team quit his job and founded the national debate team, which made us here today. Yes.
70% of zero-hour workers are not satisfied. 70% of zero-hour workers are too afraid to say they aren't earning enough because on your side, companies can fire them without any pay.
This point is highly irrelevant as this is a survey made by the Office of International Statistics. Thank you. I would like to also say that the main argument was that, and you're still focusing on, is that people are not getting enough hours. You're coming to it again and again and again. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to remind you, and I would like to address this point of information by saying 30% of people are not satisfied with their hour contracts. 70% are. No, thank you. 70% of people are. We focus on this great majority, and we would like to tell you the 30% of people that they can take another 0-hour contract and go on a full-time job. Thank you.
Speakers spoke for 6 minutes and 50 seconds.
I thank the third opposition speaker for his speech. We will now move on to the team's 4-minute concluding reply speeches. The opposition will deliver the reply speech first. There are no points of interruption during reply speeches. After 3 minutes, the timekeeper will signal once to let the speaker know that they have 1 minute left. After 4 minutes, the timekeeper will signal twice. To deliver the opposition's reply speech, I call upon Muhammad Zuba.
Zero-hour contracts is an opportunity that is truly beneficial for our world today. The opposition team has first provided the audience with a framework. This framework is as follows. The team that deserves to win this debate is the team that proves that there are more advantages to either banning the zero-hour contracts or leaving the zero-hour contracts and not changing the status quo. Now, Team Singapore did not address this framework. They didn't argue against this framework, and therefore we conclude that they agree with us. The team that proves that there are more advantages to voting for their position is a team that truly deserves to win. Now, Team Morocco has clearly done that. We have provided you with countless benefits that zero-hour contracts actually give us. And Team Singapore only provided us with fears of change and risk from the zero-hour contracts and the need to have a routine and a stable life that doesn't change and is very predictable. However, zero-hour contracts may not be predictable, but these people are not the same as you are, Team Singapore. I'm sorry, some people actually want to have unpredictable lives. So, I'd like to furthermore explain all the arguments that were given in this debate and why Team Morocco wins this debate. And Team Morocco wins this debate for 5 simple reasons. First of all, it is a choice whether or not they want to sign that contract. First of all, Team Singapore again never argued against this argument. They never said that a choice wasn't there. They agreed that the people choose. And therefore, we as Team Morocco stand for the freedom of choice and more possibilities. What we are trying to do here is give one more possibility for these people that want to work for the zero-hour contract. We want to give them more job opportunities that absolutely require and would not exist without these zero-hour contracts. And this is why you should vote for Team Morocco, because we give more opportunities, and these people are actually accepting this, and therefore these zero-hour contracts have no power on the employees or employers if there isn't a consent. And therefore this is why you should vote for Team Morocco, because there is a consent, and if the people want it, then you should let them get what they want. Now moving on to the second point. The argument was that 65% of people are actually satisfied with their zero-hour contracts. And compared to the normal jobs that are full-time, only 52% of them were satisfied with their jobs. This clearly shows us that these people are happy with the zero-hour contracts more than the people are happy with their full-time jobs. Now moving on to the third argument. And it is undeniable that more job opportunities are given from the zero-hour contracts, including on-call doctors and doping officers and other people. Now moving on to the fourth argument, which is that the economy truly needs the zero-hour contracts. Businesses cannot work if they do not start with zero-hour contracts. And Team Singapore has provided us with an argument saying that McDonald's, which is one of the most successful companies in this world, has succeeded because of zero-hour contracts. And therefore, it is more than clear that companies need zero-hour contracts to succeed, and it is beneficial for both the employees that need that job and the employers that need to hire people. 5. Flexibility is another aspect of this issue. Zero-hour contracts provide the workers with flexible hours, and therefore they can have a chance to innovate and have other things going on in their lives. So in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, please, if you have enjoyed today's debate, and if you believe that Team Morocco deserves to be here, then vote for the zero-hour contracts, because without zero-hour contracts, our coach would have never had a chance to create this team and bring us over here. Thank you.
Speakers hold for 4 minutes and 3 seconds.
And now to conclude the case for the proposition and and the debate as a whole, I call upon Brian Yeh.
In 2008, all eyes were focused on the financial crisis. Many major newspapers held bailout negotiations on the advantage. But little do we know that it was one of the first few instances with zero-hour contract. And you know why? It was because major companies like Hilton and McDonald's refused to pay their workers severance pay in a time of such an economy, and instead demoted them to zero-hour contracts, never calling most of them back. This backdoor exploitation has only worsened and pervaded even till today. The unresponsive world team opposition will continue standing for this. Let's look at the world they created. The world team opposition was one when they claimed states should not dictate anything. The world claimed the first speaker, except work regulations, minimum wage, and safety regulations, on and on. A little bit inconsistent there. They were a world who say doctors are called in whenever a patient has a heart attack, but the doctor can say, oh, my son has a cold, so I don't want to save that patient today. And their only crying call was, they call another one. This one rejects, they call another one, and another one, and another one. Admitted eventually the companies overhire and never provide most of them any and inconsistent trade that came first. They say people will have free time. Yeah, and when you're thinking, you may be called out at any moment, even in the middle of your sleep, to work at a McDonald's counter at 4 a.m. Compare this to the part-time contracts, which team opposition supported, which allowed you to plan and schedule around these part-time contracts and still get a fixed job if you do want to. Team opposition was naive and uncomparative. Eventually, you can say, you can go for another job. You can go for a fixed-hour contract if you really think zero-hour contracts are that bad. And the point in which monopolies have caused zero-hour contracts to prevail. They seriously think people have any other option, and if their first speaker already says, oh, these people have no other choice, they want zero-hour contract. At best, they are inconsistent. At worst, they are exploitative and coercive. And I love this. They say unions may not like this, but companies do. Ladies and gentlemen, unions protect you from the exploitation of companies. Signing with a policy that unions don't like but companies do is probably the worst thing to do for your team. Eventually, that case reduced all the way until one single statistic. The 65% of people who are satisfied. Really, if you can reduce your case to one statistic, you have lost the debate. But more seriously, David Cameron built this entire political campaign by avoiding zero-hour contracts and their heart. You seriously think a survey conducted by a company which the political party funds is really going to say zero-hour contracts are bad? You've got to be kidding me, ladies and gentlemen. That case was reductive, uncomparative, and exploitative. We lost that case. In the world of the proposition, we were far more realistic. We realized that many monopolies today are using zero-hour contracts, and very often they are able to pay for fixed-hour contracts, but after conclusion, choose collectively to offer zero-hour contracts. In doing so, they in fact reduce opportunities for workers. We want to change this. We want to remove the disempowerment of job seeking, dignity, and liberty to zero-hour contracts. We want to ensure consent on whether they work, what contract they work in, and how to choose to work. Systemic reasons why zero-hour contracts cannot fulfill this barrier, never responded. We want to create fixed-hour contracts provided by monopolies who are fully able to afford this to ensure people are protected and people have their liberties. We get union protection because people are able to unionize. We do not undermine the world of rules. We give people permanent contracts, a permanent floor of income to ensure there is increased expenditure. So even in the long term, we create better economic growth and more jobs. This debate was very clear. Where a team was clearly inconsistent, clearly exploitative. We had a team who clearly fought for consent and fought for retention. And for all these reasons, we believe that honest work deserves honest pay and zero-hour contracts, but neither we stand firm in team opposition.